All right, welcome back, folks, to the Creation Science Hour and a Half. Ken Hovind, Jonathan Sampson, live September 29th of 05, defending the position that the Bible is true and the evolution theory is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of planet Earth. Okay, instant message. Have we got a caller, Jonathan?
Here we have Jared on the phone.
Jared. Welcome back, Jared.
Thank you.
You're not calling to make that announcement we're all hoping for yet, are you?
Not yet.
Okay, we'll keep praying for that. Okay.
I suspect that will always be the case. But we'll
oh, no, you'd be surprised.
I guess I would be surprised.
Have you ever heard of C.S. Lewis?
Oh, yeah, I've read several. I read the entire Chronicles of Narnia 3 times over, and I read most of Mere Christianity. And also, the Screwtape Letters with my family.
Oh, those are interesting, aren't the Screwtape Letters?
Yeah, it was very interesting.
Yeah.
Very entertaining.
He was quite the scoffer, an evolutionist, an atheist, and started really searching and, found the truth.
Yep, that's true. And for everybody like C.S. Lewis, there are probably 10 more people that used to be religious and turned atheist.
Usually about the time the hormones kick in and they would like an excuse to, not have a God telling them what to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, the problem with Mere Christianity, as I saw it when I tried to read it, was he kind of sets it up, and I think he might even admit this explicitly, but I can't quite remember, that he's being very logical. Like, the book is very reasoned. It's like a philosophy book. And if you don't accept his premises, then you can't follow his argument, because you wouldn't accept the conclusion.
Right, I understand.
And I as a Christian, when I read the book, I accepted his premises, and I was able to follow it pretty far through, and I got bored halfway through it or something, because I was like, okay, fine, I believe you. So when I read it as an agnostic or an atheist or whatever I was when I read it the second time, I couldn't get past the first chapter, because he claimed things about human morality and nature of man that I didn't agree with anymore. I don't know, I thought it was kind of interesting. I think the book may in some sense be preaching to the choir, because can't really follow him if you don't already accept his conclusion or accept sort of things. Like, if you accept his conclusion, you're likely to accept all of his premises and vice versa, so it's kind of pointless.
Very much like evolution.
How's that?
I don't accept the premise that there's a fossil record or that the strata of Earth are different ages or that animals are capable of producing things other than their own kind. I don't accept any of those premises, and therefore I have a hard time believing in the concept.
Well, you do think that there's a fossil record. You just think it's recording a different event.
Well, I think it's not really a record. It's just a bunch of bones in the dirt that we are putting our interpretation on.
It's not bones in the dirt. It's bones in solid shale.
Okay, well, yeah.
Limestone.
Right, bones in the rock, okay.
Yeah, you make it sound like it's, by using the term dirt, you kind of...
Well, good, okay, well, dirt technically is made of rock that is ground in small, it depends on the type of dirt, whether it contains humus, etc. But, yeah, smaller rocks.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, I don't think that people necessarily accept or reject the premise that animals change from one kind to another to accept evolution. That's sort of what evolution is trying to show. That's the claim of the theory.
Right. So far they've not shown it scientifically to anybody that I am aware of. They might have shown it theoretically. See this little minor change? Well, given enough time, stop right there, you just left science.
Oh, well, here's the thing, Ken. If that is your complaint against people who think that way, I would agree with you, and I criticize people who think that way. It's the other evidence that makes it compelling, not the microevolution part of it.
Okay.
The microevolution part of it is pretty much irrelevant, as far as I'm concerned. Like when people bring up speciation events, I'm like, yeah, that really doesn't serve as evidence for evolution, because that fits perfectly within a creation model. So that's not really the evidence. The evidence to me is the radiometric dating, the fossil records, geomagnetism or paleomagnetism and stuff like that, like the things that actually show explicitly that these ages can be assigned to these rocks consistently and so forth. Okay. So I don't agree that microevolution proves macroevolution.
Well, good. That's not what you called, though, is it?
Well, it's related to it, because I wanted to respond to something Jonathan said about the RATE project, because, you there, Jonathan?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay. You were complaining a couple of episodes ago that I was not being fair because I was not reading the material that was available to me, like on ICR's website, about the RATE project and about radioactive decay studies they've done.
I believe we were talking about isochrons.
Right, and you were accusing me of not reading the material. Okay, so I was like, okay, let's just see if maybe I'm being a little bit unfair. So I went to the site, and I found the page where you can buy the RATE book.
Mm-hmm.
The topics they list in the book, the areas of focus, are radioisotope dating review, distribution of radioactive isotopes in the Earth, mineral isochron method applied as a test of the assumptions of radioisotope dating, geochemical processes in the mantle and crust, theoretical mechanisms of accelerated nuclear decay, which is notable, accelerated nuclear decay, a viable hypothesis, which is notable, and radio halos. Okay, those are the areas of focus for the project and what's described and discussed in the book.
Okay.
Out of all of those, only 2 even remotely compare to what I was talking about. Out of these 2, they're both theoretical. They give a mechanism that might work.
Wait a minute. Sorry, let me try to read between the lines here. You still haven't read the project. You've only read the titles to the chapters.
Right, but here's... Okay, right. Let me explain why I'm not going to read it, though.
Okay.
Because what I was asking for, the thing that I was complaining about whenever you counter-complained that I hadn't read the material, was that nobody has ever demonstrated that, experimentally in a lab, these isotope decay rates can change, or if you want to make the argument weaker, change significantly. That was my complaint, and that's not discussed in the book.
Actually, it is.
No, it's not. And I can guarantee you that it's not discussed in the book.
You can?
Here's why.
Okay,
Yep.
fantastic, because they actually give specific references to secular studies where they've shown that the decay rates can be changed. So,
How much?
well, now are you saying how much? You're going to assume it is in the book now?
No, hold on. I said a minute ago...
No, you just said it's not in the book, and you can guarantee me. And I, unlike you, have not just read the titles, I actually have the book in my house.
Okay, so maybe you can tell me to what extent they have demonstrated...
Well, see, that's irrelevant, because you just said it's not in there. So if you're going to agree that... If you're going to say it's not in there, and then just say, okay, well, maybe he's right, it is in there, then you were just lying in first place, and now you're wanting me to tell you what extent. I'll be more than happy to as well, but that's completely irrelevant to you saying that it's not even in there.
May I complete a sentence, Jonathan?
Yeah, if you can do it honestly.
Yeah, I've never been dishonest. Okay. I said there were 2 versions of my argument. There's a strong argument and a weak argument. I actually think that the strong argument is valid, but I'm not willing to defend it as strongly as I will defend the weak argument. The weak argument says that they have never demonstrated that these decay rates can change significantly.
Okay, can I interrupt just for a second? Have they ever demonstrated that the decay rates are required to remain consistent?
Who?
Has anybody ever demonstrated? You know, you test something for a few hours, a few days in the laboratory. They didn't even have radiometric dating until the last 50 years. I mean,
yeah, they've actually tested this for years at a time.
Let's see. Okay, so they're picking numbers of billions of years based on a few years or a few decades of research.
Yeah,
okay.
Billions of years of assumed history.
And no, it's not assumed history; it's evidence.
Let
me keep on topic. I want to make my point.
Well, hold on. This is our program too. They were assuming that nothing catastrophic has taken place over that span right there that would disrupt those ages. That is something they're assuming. So, yes, I think we're right when we say they're assuming the history.
No, I don't think that's an assumption. I think that is also disproven.
Well, let me give you an analogy. Suppose you got a bushel of 1,000 apples, a big bushel, okay? And you notice after 3 weeks, an apple starts to rot or go bad or decay once every other day. You get another one going bad. And so therefore you conclude that you can tell something about the age of this bushel of apples by how many rotten ones there are, when the truth of the matter is, if you wait a certain amount of time, all of a sudden, bingo, they're all going to go bad. I mean, the rate's going to change radically one of these months.
Yeah, the reason that this is a poor analogy is because with radioactive decay, it follows a pretty precise mathematical law. It's exponential decay, and I've dealt with the equation many, many times.
Well, I'm not worried about the equations. I'm worried about the concept. Is it true that this uranium is going to decay eventually to lead through a series of changes? And it's a purely random event for each?
No. It's not a purely random event. That's where you're wrong.
For each particular uranium atom, you never know which one's going to decay. Can you look at a uranium atom and say, this one has 2 billion years left until it decays? You can give probabilities. It's a Poisson distribution. So it is. You can't tell about any particular... Is it possible, then, that all of them could do it at once? You can't pin down to the second in time when a particular atom will decay, but you can give probabilities and confidence intervals. But since it's a purely random event, like the bushel of
It's
apples...
not a purely random event. I just told you that you can figure out intervals.
No, it is for one particular atom.
No, it's not. I am denying that claim outright.
So
it is not a purely random event.
You think somebody could look at 2 uranium atoms and say, this one will decay first?
No, not necessarily, no.
Well,
but that's not the same thing as what I just said, though.
Well, then you're missing my point. That does make it a random event.
No. See, you are confusing two terms here. There's random, like in the sense that there's a random component, there's randomness involved, and there's purely random.
Oh, okay.
That's a huge difference. That's how Poisson distributions work. You have a certain probability. Like you can say, well, within the next 1,000 years, we give a probability that this uranium atom will decay, and the probability is this, and you give an explicit number.
So is it possible that all of them could decay in the next 3 seconds?
Yeah, it's possible, but the probability is so small that you can just ignore it. It's like 0.0, like 100 zeros and a 1. Like that's the kind of probability. I mean, you would bet your life on.
Okay, right. Aren't there similar giant numbers like that, or infinitesimally small numbers like that, when it comes to the probability of DNA arranging itself by chance, or the stars arranging themselves by chance? You know?
Purely by chance? Yeah, there are astronomically small probabilities for DNA assembling itself, spontaneously, but nobody claims that happens.
Okay, now back to your. We interrupted you a couple times.
And I want to finish this point. The point is that there's two arguments. I'm not going to defend one of them, even though I think it's true. I'm only saying that for the record. For the record, I do not think that these results about them changing the decay rates are valid. I think that it's probably statistical error, that it was probably either that or bad lab equipment or something. Okay? That's what I think. What I'm willing to defend...
Without reading the article, right?
No, I've actually read other articles about this. I haven't read the rate book.
Okay, so without reading the material that we're talking about, you're making that judgment already.
Can I finish what I'm saying?
Okay. It's just a yes or no question.
Yeah, well, it's obvious he's making that judgment. Okay. He admitted he hasn't read it. Okay, but go ahead.
Right, okay. I can promise you that in this book, they do not give any evidence that radioisotopes have decayed at rates sufficient to account for the discrepancy between the traditional scientific perspective on the age of the Earth via isochron methodology and what young Earth creationists say. I would bet my life on it, even though I have not read the book.
You can
find me a reference in the book and photocopy it for me. I will concede this point and come on here and say in front of you and everybody that I was wrong. But that's what I'm claiming.
All right. Well, look it over. Jonathan, you see if you can find him one. Regardless, you do understand, I would assume, that getting over this hurdle of the age of the Earth is only hurdle number 1 for you.
Yeah.
Many thousands of more hurdles to go.
I would say the same. On the flip side, I would say the same thing about young Earth creationists. I would say that you disproving isochrons or even radioactive decay, it would be the first hurdle in you showing that the Earth is young. But it's still possible for the Earth to be immensely old and for the radioactive decay series to be false.
Correct. Yes, correct. I would admit that.
Yeah. This is a logical...
Right. So from a purely logical perspective, both views are in a similar position as far as being actually more taken by faith or belief or based on assumptions.
No, I don't think so. I think that one of
don't.
these is science and one of them is not. And the only difference between this is that you think that both of them are unscientific, and I think one of them is scientific.
Yeah, you're right. Creation is actually more scientific, but...
You've said before that neither one of them is scientific.
Well, the point is, why should everybody be required to pay for one religious view, i.e. evolution, to be taught in the school system?
Obviously... If it were a religion, it shouldn't be taught in public school. I would agree with that immediately, but I don't think that you've ever shown evidence that it is a religious view. It doesn't rely on anything metaphysical. It doesn't rely on any kind of supernatural power. There's no God involved. That's the very definition of religion.
Okay.
You love to look at the definition of science in the dictionary. Look at the definition of religion in the dictionary.
Oh, I have, and
it refers to God.
No, it refers to a power or powers that created and sustained the universe.
There's also additional definitions. Check out the fourth one, I believe, on dictionary.com. It has nothing to do with power or powers that created the universe.
Yeah, and there's definitions of science that wouldn't agree with what Ken Hovind says if I go down the list too. So this is a perfect example of why you shouldn't use dictionary definitions when you're in an argument.
Well, that's what we have to define your word somehow. Even if just the definition you agree on in your discussion, we could agree that red is pink or red is yellow. Just so we agree at the beginning, this is what we mean by that word.
You have to define it, or else you're going to have someone being equivocal in what they're talking about. That's
yeah,
what they do
that's exactly. So as long as we all know what the other person is saying, then it's all fine.
Sure. Okay. Right.
It's more important that we communicate properly than we quibble over the definition of words.
Right. But to communicate with the whole world, you have to someplace have a book that says, okay, this is what this word means. Everybody.
Okay. So why do you call your ministry Creation Science Evangelism if you admit that creation science isn't science?
Well, I don't admit creation isn't science. Okay. I think science deals with what we know, we observe, we test, we demonstrate. That is the standard, centuries-old definition of science.
It's a little vague, but sure.
Okay.
But you've said in your seminars and your debates before that you think that neither creation nor evolution are scientific. I mean, you're mimicking Dwayne Gish there.
Well, neither one is observable, but I think
you have used the phrase neither one of them is scientific.
Okay, but by that I mean neither one has been observed. I did not observe the creation. Nobody that I'm aware of alive today has. I think we do have an eyewitness account, but I think the scientific evidence, which is the gathering of all human knowledge over the last 6,000 years, would lead to the conclusion, wow, there must have been a creation event. So creation science, those words go just fine together, I believe. It is obvious from the scientific evidence we've gathered over the last few thousand years that this creation what we're observing was created.
Is there any science that only supports creationism that doesn't also, in your words, support evolution?
I'm not aware of any science that does support evolution. Can you give me...
Those are... Creation and evolution are interpretations of the science. You're not going to find science explicitly support something. You have to interpret the outcome of what you do with science.
Yeah, most of it is interpretation. He's right.
Okay. So in other words, neither one is science. That's what you just said, Jonathan.
I didn't just say that.
Well, I'm paraphrasing you. That's what
you just wrote. I just said you have to interpret from the science that you're doing what this means. When you look at
All right, folks, welcome back to the final segment of the Creation Science Hour and a Half, September 30th, 29th.
Yeah, 29th.
One more day of 05. And, boy, we're having a lot of fun. This is Kent Hovind and Jonathan Sampson in Pensacola, Florida. Beautiful, lovely Pensacola, Florida. Nice out today, Jonathan, not too hot.
Yep.
And we have Jared on the phone telling us that he believes...
Well, we just had to clear that up. Jared, apparently I miscommunicated or misinterpreted. There was some miscommunication there. He thought that I was saying that creation and evolution neither are science. But just during the break, we agreed that all science has to be interpreted to some extent, and that's what I was trying to convey.
Yeah, you have to define the term science there, I suppose.
It depends on what your axioms are, what your starting premises are. Creationists, of course, we're going to say, well, we believe that Genesis is accurate history of the earth and the creation of life. And evolutionists, typically, traditionally, aside from theistic evolutionists, have the axiom that we have uniformitarianism all throughout, until the beginning. God didn't just jump in and start tickling things around. They have that premise and that axiom, and so we both have to start with completely different, frameworks to interpret science through, and that's what I was trying to say.
Sure. I pretty much agree with that, although I would, I think, rephrase it more like that everything in science has to be interpreted in the sense that the evidence has to be interpreted, not that the science has to be interpreted. Science is the interpretation.
Science is the interpretation of the evidence.
Yeah, science is the theoretical framework that goes on top of the evidence. So
I wouldn't say science is a framework. I would not say science is a framework. I would say things like naturalism is a framework, or theism, that might be part of a framework, or creation is a framework, evolution is a framework. It's all how you're going to interpret the results of science and the processes in science. So science itself is not going to tell you the truth. You have to interpret what science gives you.
You don't think the scientific method, so to speak, is a framework for doing things?
The scientific method,
you develop hypothesis, you gather data, and
right.
you come to conclusions, and other people try to disprove you. I guess
right,
it'd be
exactly.
Kind of a gross simplification.
That's actually a pretty good simplification, though.
Okay.
I'm impressed.
What evidence has been gathered that anybody can show us that would lead us to think that a dog ever produced a non-dog or ever came from a non-dog?
Fossil evidence.
Okay. And you agree that, of course, fossil evidence in a court of law wouldn't hold up 2 seconds because you find a bone in the dirt or a rock, as you prefer. You couldn't prove it had any children.
When you say hold up in a court of law, what do you mean by that?
Well, I know in a court of law, evidence has to be a little more rigorous, and it has to withstand some testing. And say, no, sorry, I object, Your Honor. That's speculation. Sustained. That is speculation. A lot of things, everything about evolution is speculation.
And so, creation science quote is not speculation.
Well, I don't know. I think even if it is, that would really prove the point. Then why are we all paying for one speculation to be taught as if it is fact to the exclusion of all others?
There is certainly speculation in science, but the speculative part of it is, at least supposedly, not supposed to be as much of the curriculum as the things that are well established.
So the speculation is, how did evolution happen? They're not allowed to speculate whether it happened.
They're allowed to speculate if they want to, but if you're going to speculate about that, you have to garner evidence to your cause. You can't just go around saying the Bible says it didn't happen.
I don't think that's what I do. I think I do give lots of evidence for my cause.
If you didn't have the Bible at your disposal as a set of axioms, I don't think that you would have very much, strength in your argument.
Well, I don't think you've listened to all my seminars then, because I give thousands of evidences from science.
What you usually do is you take things that I think you take things out of context a lot, and you claim that scientists have shown that something doesn't work, or that this shows it doesn't work, when in fact it's an example of methodology being misapplied.
Okay, let's take the example I give of the population of the planet over the last 2,000 years that has been reasonably, recorded.
No, that's questionable, but even on an assumption, okay.
You can go to University of West Florida up here and go to their library and go to I forget what section it's in.
I'm just saying it's rough. Any estimates would be very rough, that's all I'm saying.
But, okay, the numbers in the last 200 years are real clear.
That's probably true, yeah.
Okay. 1800, there was 1 billion people.
Yep.
1930, 2 billion people.
Yeah.
1985, 5 billion people.
Yeah, and so if you continue the trend backwards, you can figure out that it must have come from the Noah's Ark crew getting up.
Okay. How would you disprove that?
How would I disprove it?
Well, what is your evidence? I mean, the curve clearly shows a recent population, certainly in a few thousand years.
Well, I read something recently about how the Bible's depiction of events, in what you're just saying, is contradicted by the best evidence we have of the population of, say, Egypt, going back before Noah's flood should have even happened.
Well, if you're trusting...
But you wouldn't accept that evidence because you don't accept the archaeologists' opinions or the consensus because you don't think that's science.
No, I do. I think the Egyptian calendar would be a lousy one to stake anything on because it is grossly exaggerated. Has been proven for a long time.
And it's I think that the Egyptian calendar has been largely corroborated by radiometric dating.
There we are again with the circular reasoning, but
not circular reasoning.
Do you have the book, The Evolution Cruncher?
No.
It's a 900-page book, and it's only $5. It's very thorough. I tell you what, Jared, I know you don't want to give your address, or I don't even know where state you're in, but if you want to send your stuff to Jonathan, we will send you this book. On page 56, it's got a whole section in there about the Egyptian calendar and the serious problems with it, as has been documented.
You can actually read that online. I'll see if I can find the link.
Evolution-Facts. Isn't that it, or something like that?
Okay. I'd be willing to take a look at it. Just give me the info.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, so now if you look at other calendars that are, like the Saxons in England, they have a genealogy going back to Adam. The Danes in Norwegian king list, they have a list of their kings. They go back to Noah. They call them a different name. The Hebrew calendar this is the year 5764. Less than 6,000 years on the Hebrew calendar. History Channel a couple of months ago had a special about capital punishment. And they said the oldest recorded example of capital punishment is from the 18th century B.C. Well, that's 3,800 years ago. That would be post-flood.
So here's the thing that should be pointed out, and that is science, by and large, doesn't rely on the same kind of reasoning that, say, math does, where you deduce truths. It's more like you propose something that's a good model for reality, or a hypothesis or a theory or something. And as long as nobody can show that it's wrong, then you maintain it.
Okay, I have shown the population points to 4,400 years ago. Nobody's shown that to be wrong.
Okay, I'm going to have to go get evidence that contradicts that because I don't have it at my fingertips.
I think
that's been shown. be false.
Okay. I got other folks who want to get on the program here. One more comment real quick, Jared.
Yeah, I can tie this up with that comment, and this is another thing for Jonathan, which was that before when we talked about ways to falsify evolution, which is what I was just talking about, several people have claimed that if you found a chimeric creature, like a buffalo with wings, it would falsify evolution. And Jonathan said, I don't know if you agree with this, but I just wanted to ask this question, said that it would be shooting yourself in the foot from the creationist perspective.
Yeah, it wouldn't be falsifying evolution. It would just tell them that evolution happens a little bit differently than what they thought it did.
That's incorrect, but that's not what I'm asking for. You said it would be shooting yourself in the foot. And I'm curious. I'm honestly curious why you would say that.
Well, if here I am, a creationist, saying that creatures will not do anything like that, I mean, even to that extreme, a buffalo would not inherit some type of wing or actually develop some type of wing.
Oh, no. I see the problem. No, here's the thing, Jonathan. Nobody. Oh, okay, I get it. It's not. Say it's not like we see a cow or a buffalo develop wings. Say we find an island where cows with wings are discovered.
What? If we find an island with cows with wings are discovered?
Yeah, we didn't watch them evolve the wings. They're just, we find them and they're already there. That's more like what the evolutionists are talking about.
Okay,
do you still think that would be shooting yourself in the foot?
Well, then we could conclude that maybe at one time all cows had wings and some have lost this, which would be a loss of information, not a gain, which would be the opposite of evolution.
Okay, I'll go ahead and get off the air. I just wanted to get that.
Well, I want you to falsify something. This whole concept of something has to be falsifiable, okay?
Right.
If I said, I have a theory that watermelons are blue on the inside until the skin is pierced. As soon as you pierce the skin anywhere, it turns red. Can you falsify that for me?
That might be possible, actually, with some kind of MRI or CAT scan sort of technology where the light can bounce off the inside.
I could modify my hypothesis and say watermelons are blue on the inside until it is examined.
That's very interesting. What you're getting into is actually a quandary in quantum mechanics. This is the same thing as Schrodinger's cat. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, my cat died a long time ago.
We'll talk about it next time. I want to go ahead and get off the air.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.